Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings, 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
Honorable Member, may I now call on Honorable Member for Lower Badibu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the floor. First of all, I would like to thank the Select Committee on Pan-African Parliament. The report is self-explanatory. And again, I will join my colleagues to thank the clerk of the committee, that is Mr. Doumbia. This has shown us that capacity, competency matters in any work. That has yielded us a report. He was the vice chair for the Committee on SDG on Pan-African Parliament, has just informed us that there was a report before this report. My question to him is, where is that report and why is that report delayed? Honorable Speaker, I would sincerely like to thank the clerk of the committee, Mr. Doumbia, for the job well done. This is what is expected of them. And I will also say that it is high time now we do away with give the job to your friend, but rather give the job to his friend, not your friend. Honorable Speaker, if we turn to page 6 of the report, the opening ceremony, where in paragraph 2, it stated that in his opening statement, the retired Honorable Roger Ngodo Dang, President of Pan-African Parliament, expressed regret over the recent events that took place in the host country, that is South Africa. I will stop here. Honorable Speaker, if we go by history, the purpose of Pan-African Parliament, the original purpose is that Pan-Africanism or African nationalism, the originality is that it is a call felt to bring a call for a blacks to form a single culture or race. But if we know exactly what is happening in that host country, I don't think they deserve to be called Pan-Africans. The main aims and objective of being an Pan-African, they betray the cause. This idea came from our fellow Africanists who were one time in the West Indies, in the life of Henry Sylvester, in the lives of Marcus Garvey, in the life of W.E.B. Du Bois, just to name a few. The idea of being a Pan-African is to protect your fellow brother, African brother or sister. We have to be each other's brother keeper. But not to kill your own brother in the name of economic gain, in the name of social gain. It is very sad. South Africa, to me, don't even deserve to be the headquarters of Pan-African Parliament. Going by history, in 31st of May 1961, South Africa became an independent state. From 1961 up to 1994, that's where they became a democratic state. If you look at the scenarios that happens in South Africa, I think South Africa, the whole Africa should set sample from South Africa. But this was not the case. It is very disheartening. It is disappointed. It is disappointing that to see South Africans casing their fellow black Africans, killing them, stoning them, going with matcha to butcher them. And still we as Africans, we want that particular place to be the headquarters of what we call the head of African nationalism or Pan-African headquarters. I think the committee, if I am part of the committee that day, I will move a motion for us to move that particular headquarters from South Africa because they betray us. They betray the whole Africa. This is not what we fought for. This is not what our forefathers fought for. Honorable Speaker, I will take a sample from Nigeria. In 1994, going through by the history, the contribution that all Africans made, but particularly Nigeria contributed at the time of apartheid for South Africa to have, to become a democratic state, because they have their independence since 1961, 31st of May. If you look at from 1961 to 1994, these people have been malaced by other races. They were controlled. The unions were formed after unions in order to control them. Africa, the whole of Africa stood by them. We fought together. But this was very disheartening to see our fellow blacks killing our own brothers and sisters. And nothing comes out of it. Honorable Speaker, if you go further to the reports, I will challenge the committee at page 10 of the report, where in paragraph 4, it says that the report reveals that the PAP does not have a disaster recovery plan and business continuity plan, BCP, in place. The essence of the DRP and BCP, the report postulated, is to safeguard the activities of the Parliament and to ensure that disruption of its activities is mitigated in the event of any unforeseen circumstances. I will challenge the committee that I think PAP should have all these things as the main umbrella body for Pan-Africans. If we don't have any plans for unforeseen circumstances, what is the essence of PAP then? We need to ask ourselves, what is the essence of PAP? Honorable Speaker, going further to the next paragraph, the report further reveals a high turnover of clerks. For instance, in a span of 4 years, from 2015 to 2029, the PAP has 4 clerks. The report attributes this high turnover to the manner in which clerks are hired and consequently fired. It indicates that Rule 17A of the Rules of Procedure of the PAP states that the President of the Bureau is in charge of the administration of the Parliament. If we are to do check and balances, and if we are to respect the rules of law, and if we are advocating for separation of powers, you cannot even imagine I begin to wonder which type of institution our pub is, wherein there is a bureaucracy and there is autocracy or powercracy, wherein the president can just hire and fire the clerk. What kind of institution do we have as Africans? This is a question that we should answer, we should ask ourselves. There is no separation of power in this. There is no check and balances. Because if the clerk knew that, if this is what the president wants and I don't do that, I will go. Do we think we are trying to encourage efficiency and effectiveness in these organizations of ours? So I think the committee needs to take note of this. Going further, again, it says, the next paragraph, in the view of the auditors, as well as CAPA, is not healthy for the effective administration of the Secretariat of PAP. CAPA therefore recommends that strong measures to instigate to protect the position of the clerk to ensure stability and effective service delivery in the administration of PAP. I will ask them, what are the measures that you put in place to see that this thing is effective? What are the measures? We cannot just be talking blindly like that, put the policy frames in place and there is no method to implement them. Honorable Speaker, if you go further to the next paragraph, you will see that they say that the above amount, the report points out, is over and above the PAP approved threshold of 100,000 US dollar as provided in the AU procurement manual. What are the procedure, or what are the policies, or what are the acts of AU procurement manual policies? Can the committee help us to explain some of these things to us so that we can understand? Because 100,000 US dollar is not a change in our own context here. And if you go further, it says that among other issues raised in the report include funds mobilized by PAP but not captured in the budget implementation report, delay in the implementation of the audit recommendation, and failure to indicate the contribution of the host government, South Africa, in the book of accounts. How can this be possible? Can the committee members explain this to us thoroughly? Because if you look at it, you have informed us that where did the fund came from for the first place? We would like to know. And why is it that it is not captured in the budget implementation? Where else did they got the fund from? If you go further, Honorable Speaker, in their contribution to the debate, it says that at the middle part of the paragraph, however, there has never been anybody that was punished. There has never been anybody that was punished. Let me just read the whole paragraph for people to understand more. In their contribution to the debate, the members took turn to give, in the view of some, an objective valuation of the report. Honorable Abdullah Baraka of Djibouti pointed out that follow-up recommendations have been given by committees. Follow-up recommendations have been given by the committees. However, there has never been anybody that was punished. So what is the purpose of the whole exercise of auditing then, if there is no penalties for people to be punished of their action? Where are we? We can just recommend it and put it in the cave. Honorable Speaker, if you go further, the same report, page 11, Honorable Solomon Thomas of Sierra Leone expressed utter disappointment in the revelation that funds being mobilized by PAP were not captured in the implementation budget. This is very serious, he lamented. He noted that it is important for members to know how the funds were being mobilized. My question is, by whom and how much? Who provided the fund? Because something that we don't even budgeted for. Who provided that fund and how much was the amount? Honorable Speaker, without going further or waste the time of the Assembly, I think these are the few recommendations that I want to observe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Lower Badibu. May I now call on Honorable Member for Latrikunda Sabiji. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Let me also join my colleagues to thank the delegates to the Pan-African Parliament for the timely presentations of the report. I think this is very, very encouraging. You attend a session on the 2nd and then the 29th of October, and then today we are seeing the report. This is a job well done, and then we expect other committees also to follow suit, because this is what we need. We cannot be talking about things that have already passed. Honorable Speaker, my intervention in this will be on the page 15. The presentations and debates of the launchings and the implementations of African Continental Free Trade Area. I think this document was ratified here some time ago in this parliament here. And then you're talking about the launching and implementations. But what I am asking and what I should be asking now is that Gambia as a country, what did we have to offer? And then we as a parliament, what are we ready to do for our country so that they can also benefit from this? For instance, let's look at our private sector. How much are they doing? Can they really compete in outside markets? What are some of the policies that are hindering their progress? I think these are some of the things that we have to look at. We look at our agricultural sector. We look at our budget, the 2020 budget, the draft estimate that we've just from debating right now. We look at the agricultural budget, and also we look at the Ministry of Trade budget. What did we have that we can offer to the outside world? I think these are things that are this is very, very important to us as a country. It's not just a matter of, yes, we are taking part in, there is a CFTA, but what will be the benefit of, what are we going to benefit from this? This is what happened most. Let us ask ourselves, and let us do something. Let us empower our private sector. The private sector needs to be empowered. People talking about the employment in this report, if you talk about, they're talking about creation of jobs and everything. As I said here last time, the bulk of the job that we expect should be created by the private sector. Then that means that the conducive the environment should be very, very conducive for them to take part. We cannot have a government that competes with our private sector in the market. If you look at our budget, the domestic borrowing, I said it here and I will repeat it again. If we continue borrowing, and then what will happen to the private sector? It will really affect their operations. If we want to offer something to this market, let us not say it's just a matter of Gambia is part and parcel of this, but what are we going to offer? This is what matters most. I think the colleagues that are representing us at the Pan-African Parliament should take this thing up with the government of the day, that let us put on a policy, a clear-cut policies that will empower our private sector so that they can also take part in this market. So on that note, Honorable Speaker, let me not waste the time of the Parliament, and then also let me stand by the rest of the African to condemn the xenophobia attack that happened to the black African in South Africa, to say that it's unfortunate, and then this is something that we should not condone as an African. We should all stand against it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May I now call on Honorable Member for Nyamina East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, let me thank the committee for their magnanimous effort in preparing the report in a very timely manner, and of course extend my congratulations to the newly elected or selected Vice Chairperson of the Alliance for Sustainable Development Goals, who is the Honorable Member for Upper Salum. Honorable Speaker, like I do say, Africa, we are confronted with so many issues, so many challenges and problems that are out there waiting. African problems must be identified by Africans, and the solutions must be defined by the Africans. The problem that we have in Africa It is to allow the West to coordinate, to interfere, and to define the problems and the solutions of our own continent. In as much as we are encouraging the West to be giving us identifying the problems that we have in Africa and defining the solutions to those problems, then we will never be as independent as we expect as a continent. Because this is all as a result of the resources that we want to tap from the West. Because if we believe that we cannot independently manage and control the little that we have and utilize it, we will surely rely on the West, and in as much as we rely on them, we must adhere to some of the dictates that they are penetrating in Africa. So it is very important for Africans to understand that there are outstanding issues that must be defined and addressed by Africans and not the West. Honorable Speaker, if you get to page 30 of the report, which is talking about sustainable development goal, the purpose of the Pan-African Parliament, it is to amplify individual states' problems and solutions. And in as much as we want to adhere or acknowledge the problems that are happening in various countries, the representatives of various countries must be able to understand issues that are happening in those very countries. If you look at the Gambia, there is a committee responsible for sustainable development, and that is the Committee of Environment, NGOs, and Sustainable Development. The Committee on Environment, NGOs, and Sustainable Development, I could recall, we have embarked on an oversight on environmental issues and NGOs. We are yet to embark on sustainable development issues. So I was expecting the information that we will be giving in as much as sustainable development goals are concerned. Some of the resolutions or the solutions that they have adopted there will be outlined in the report, so that the committee also will be clearly informed if we are doing our oversight. These are some of the things that we can grab and also perform our oversight as expected. Because this is about continental issue, and in Africa, almost any problem that is happening in one country almost affects the other country. So it is important if Africans gathered at one place and discuss some of this issue, it is better for the representatives to filter some of this information to their various countries so that people there, also parliamentarians, can adopt that and start working on that. So I was expecting that to be featured out in the report. Honorable Speaker, finally, Pan-Africa, PAP. The unfortunate incident that occurred in South Africa, it is very unfortunate, and I also stand to condemn. Like I was concluding, Honorable Speaker, I was actually saying you cannot have Africans being foreigner in Africa. Getting Gambians being in South Africa, that doesn't mean Gambians who are in South Africa are foreigners. In as much as the slogan that is stipulated here by the report, One Africa, One Voice, in as much as you want to realize and acknowledge this, you cannot have Africans being foreigner in Africa. That is very unfortunate. So I also condemn the unfortunate killing that was happening in South Africa. And my recommendation to this very assembly is, in as much as our delegations are concerned to Pan-Africa Parliament, I was expecting during the unfortunate incident, the Pan-African Parliament, the Speaker of the House, to call an extraordinary sitting for parliamentarians in Africa that constitute that parliament to condemn and bring up resolutions that will stop the unfortunate killing that was happening. So my recommendation is, in as much as some of these things are happening in Africa, we expect parliamentarians as such to call for extraordinary sitting to condemn such incidents in Africa, because we can no longer tolerate or accept some of these things. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Banjul North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I do not have much to talk about, but just to share this with the honorable colleagues. But first, I have to, join the colleagues to thank the delegation for representing Gambia at this important Apex forum in terms of the African continent, and that the timely report that they have presented before us. There are areas, I initially did not want to say anything, but having gone through it, there are areas that I think also needs some reflection, particularly the area on page 27, presentation of the report of the high-level Pan-African Summit on HIV and health financing. Well, the question was asked as to what is being done with regards to AIDS, HIV/AIDS in the Gambia, that nowadays there is not much talk about the disease. Some say it's not a disease, but the pandemic. Is anything being done about it? Well, I'm sure, honorable colleagues, some of you would be aware that yesterday was World AIDS Day. It was commemorated with the normal gathering that is done, speeches made, and I was invited by virtue of my position as chair of the Select Committee on Health. And of course, the problem is still around, and it is increasing, infection. And not only infection increasing, but it is compounded by the situation of the issue of stigma and discrimination, that people who have been diagnosed and found to be positive, normally they put them on treatment, but some would not continue their treatment because of discrimination and stigma. And then it was resolved there that there is need for efforts to be made to address the issue of stigma and discrimination, so that those who are infected would continue treatment. So what is left now is the momentum that was created initially with regards to HIV/AIDS in this country to be revived, so that everybody will be aware that it is around. And I think the rate of inspection is around the region of 21,000 are thought to be with the virus, and you know what that means. So it's quite alarming. And I think they have agreed to step up efforts to start sensitizing the population that it's still around and much needs to be done. With regards to health financing, I think you've heard it here, the Honorable Minister of Finance talked about the intention of the government, the executive, to introduce health insurance, that they want to introduce a health insurance scheme that will be targeting civil servants and, of course, vulnerable groups. The Committee on Health is engaging with the officials who are in the sector, health sector. I think 2020 is going to be a year for them to kickstart the process to eventually have this scheme in place. But I think the committee, had tasked the sector to really start consultation and intensify the consultation. What I'm just saying is that, well, I've seen this report, but I would have loved, and it's a recommendation, that next time, what is the takeaway that the committee is bringing in terms of recommending for committees, either the whole House or the whole committee? That's what I've seen absent in the report, recommendations. Like, for instance, here, the committee, I don't know what transpired there, how they concluded after this report was presented, but I was expecting that there should have been a takeaway, so that they'll come and recommend. We are recommending to the Health Committee that at the Pan-African level, we have agreed that this is the way forward. So we would want the Committee on Health to at least consider this, or we want the whole House to at least consider this. So this is what I wanted the committee to look into, and not only on health and health, on HIV/AIDS and health financing. There is something on trade and transport, rural economy, renewable energy. I think it would have been also very helpful if there were takeaways that they would be coming to share with the whole House and also the relevant committees dealing in these areas. And this is this one on food security and nutrition. Well, these are now the topical issues. As you know, poverty in Africa is not going, it's on the increase. And not only the populations being deprived of gainful activities, particularly in the agriculture sector, farmers farming, but at the end of the day realizing nothing out of their labor. But there's also this challenge of food security and nutrition, which are interlinked. So I would have loved also if the committee shared with us what was the conclusion there. I know sometimes they just come and present, there is no conclusion. But these are things that, committees can also look into, that when we attend conferences and come back, the report is good. This is a comprehensive report, yes. But I was expecting that it was also going to task the Assembly to pursue certain activities towards the realization of continental goals, national goals, what have you. Basically, that's what I wanted to say in terms of my contribution to this, and to once again thank the members of the committee for having represented the Gambia and then presenting this report. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. May I call on the last speaker, Honorable Member for Central Badibu. Thank you.
For giving me the floor. I would also like to join my colleagues to thank our honorable members who made this report a report. Honorable Speaker, I made some observations which I believe will help us as a country to move on. The model laws that we have proposed, one of which was the model law on food security and nutrition. Madam Speaker, we all know that nutrition is key to our life. The food that we eat in this country, most of them are not nutritious. We only eat for eating's sake, we only eat to survive, but they are not of balanced diet. As a country, I think the report will help us how to formulate policies on agriculture, on food safety, and our environment. The type of food that we are going to eat, the type of food that are sold in our markets, are they fit for consumption? I think the report will help us to be better prepared how to invest into agriculture, how to ensure that our markets, they have quality food. Madam Speaker, food security has been a slogan in this country since time immemorial. But are we in that direction to ensure that we are secure in terms of food? The answer is no. So going to this kind of conferences as Africans, trying to move as a continent, we have to be realistic in whatever we are doing. We have to ensure that we graduate from poverty and hunger. The 3 basic meals is a sign of poverty and hunger. Our children are malnourished. If you travel to the rural Gambia, you will be shocked the type of food that you see people eating. It's more of cereals. We are malnourished. So the report should help us as Africans and as Gambians in particular. What do we learn from the interaction that we have with other partners? How to ensure that the food security that we talk about will not be only political slogan, but to be seen. If you look at some of the Gambians, even some of us, you think that we are sick because we lack balanced diet. That's the actual fact. Madam Speaker, coming to the fact-finding mission on child labor that was conducted in Cote d'Ivoire is shocking. But that's the report that we have. What of in the Gambia here? There are a lot of child abuses that are happening in our homes. We tend to neglect them, or we tend to accept them as part of our culture. Grandparents are abusing their grandchildren in our society, sexually, physically, mentally, psychologically. I think these are the issues that we really need to look into. Children, they have their right to survive, and those rights need to be protected. But we abuse them mentally. Madam Speaker, as a continent, if such reports are revealing, then we need to be cautious of what we are doing. And Africans must accept the fact that it's time to liberate themselves from mental slavery. It's time to be action-oriented. It's time to be decent and modest human beings on earth. We cannot be talking, and we don't move. We are tired of reading now. The pioneers have set a good pace for us. But we tend to sell everything. So if those people in the 40s, in the 90s, they can be able to think and map out something for Africa, what are we doing today? What are we doing today as a continent? Madam Speaker, coming to the report also, on page 29 talks about transport, trade, and rural economy to renewable energy. Transport is still a challenge in Africa. And we cannot have a better economy when the communication services or when the transportation services are weak. How are we going to access to the markets? This is still a challenge in Gambia and Africa in general. You go to Basse, you see how people struggle to reach to the market in Basse. How do we link our agricultural production to agricultural marketing? This is the question. These are fundamental questions that we need to ask ourselves as a country. Are we ready to ensure that people are connected? If you look at the population of the Gambia and you look at the land area of the Gambia, we cannot still communicate effectively. Madam Speaker, model disability law in Africa. I think right now, the government is trying to come up with the disability bill. So we need to see how they merge. Because disability doesn't mean inability. But imagine for how long the same bill is pending somewhere. But I believe the Justice Minister, this session or soon, will see how best we have this disability bill before us. It's long overdue. And not to have only the bill in front of us, but to see the content of the bill is well understood and apply to letter. Laws are not meant to be only made and put in our drawers, or we only have them on paper, but they need to be seen to have bearing to our life. Laws are there to guide us. And there was another on refugees. I think somebody made mention of what happened in South Africa. I think this parliament should stand and condemn it in totality. It was barbaric, it was inhuman, it was uncivilized. An African, to treat your African in such a manner. We blame the white people for coming here, enslaving our people, taking them to Europe and the Caribbean for slavery. And now human trafficking is in high gear in this country. We have reports showing that Gambia now is a center of human trafficking. We traffic our own fellow brothers and sisters. In the name of what? Economic gain or prosperity? So I think we need to learn as Africans. Refugees, they are people who deserve right to be treated with dignity. Their human rights should not be compromised. I believe with PAP, such initiations, such ideas will help us to ensure that refugees, the rights that they deserve, to be given to them. But not to be faced with inhuman treatment, not to be butchered, not to meet their untimely death. This is the order of the day in Africa. Madam Speaker, there was a draft model on Police Act 2. I think this will help us in our security reform. The police should be recognized as our partners. They're here to maintain peace. Police brutality must come to an end in this country. We will never accept it again. We must see each other as partners. But police should not be used as an institution to threaten or to control the minds of the citizens. Anywhere you see demonstrations, civil unrest, because somewhere rights has been tampered with or they were abused. If rights are abused, rights are not protected, we will face challenges and resistance will come. And throughout history, the oppressors will never like to end their oppressing attitude. It's always the oppressed who rise up against the oppressors. So, and most of the time, they use the police as instrument to abuse the citizens. So I believe this kind of laws will come up to promote mutual relationship between the civil society and the police. We must respect one another and we must see one another as partners, but not to be used as an instrument to trample on others to gain your political popularity. Not on it. We must graduate from that. It's a sign of backwardness. It's a sign of inhuman attitude. Madam Speaker, the police should be trained how to deal with protesters or demonstrators. Since it's their fundamental right to demonstrate, the police should know how to keep them on the safe environment. But the police should not be used to fight against the demonstrators. This is what we see. And I once asked the IG of the police, Is it a right for people to come out and the police to go with their military gears to stop them, instead to be beating them? No. So, Madam Speaker, I believe our people representing us at that forum will be out there to ensure that the interests of Africans, the security of Africans are well portrayed. Because there are a lot of funds spent in these meetings, these conferences. The conferences should yield something that will have direct bearing to our life. Not to only be looking at the reports, ratifying them at the parliament. We need to see that action is done. We need to see that the continent is liberated politically, mentally, physically, economically. If you are free politically, economically you are not free, that freedom is compromised. Nobody will come from the sky to solve our African problem. It's high time Africans solve their own problems. Marcos Garvey mentioned it. They fought for it. Nkrumah, Nyerere. But we are destroying the good foundations laid by those people. We don't want to sacrifice. We talk about economic integration. Are we seeing that one in Africa here? No. Countries are exploiting one another in Africa here. Madam Speaker, I believe with such kind of committees that represent us at that level will be ready to speak in volume, to show condemnations, to come with strong resolutions, how we can move as a continent. It's time for us to move as a continent. If you don't move, others are moving. If you don't move, other countries are moving. So this is my contribution, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the chair of the committee and all the members that you have a long way to go. You need to do more efforts, you need to do more research, you need to come up with challenging solutions to African problems. Thank you.
Point of information.
Thank you.
Well, I have a point of information. Observation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Honorable Member, I think you moved the... Oh, it was Brikama North, I see. Just a second. It's Officer. You'd already made your intervention, but since
yeah, that is correct. That is correct. It's just a point of information, yeah. Observation, yeah.
I'm just saying that I have seen that you have already intervened, but for the fact that it's an observation and you're a member of the delegation, yes, that's what, you can go ahead, just to
thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My point of observation is about the model law that we generate at the Pan-African Parliament. Now, the model laws, basically, these are not laws that we actually impose on states. When we come up with the model laws, for example, from the committees on like disability, we submit that to the AU. So it's the responsibility of AU organs to discuss with the heads of state and agree on those model laws, and those things would, once approved, then it will be sent to the individual states to adopt. For example, the model law on policing, for example, which gives a guide on like how does the police manage whenever there's strikes or whatever. It just gives them a guide, but it's up to the AU now to adopt, and then we send it back to the individual countries to accept or not to accept. So, but what we have there now, it's not like we are imposing anything on any country, but we are just making a recommendation to the AU, and from there they will agree, and then once the heads of state agree on it, then they will send it out to the other countries. But it's not really a law that per se. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. May I call on the Honorable Mover to respond to the issues raised and wind up the debate? Sorry, you're a member of the committee, but just coming in. I understand it was moved by the Honorable Member for Birkama North.
Thank you very much.
I want to say something. I have a report that was not joined in the report. I have a report that was not joined in the report. It's a separate report. Hey, my name is
because the proper thing to do is to hand it over to the mover to reply and wind up, because we've already...
I hand it over to Honorable Jatta, but I want to report on the report.
No, I don't think at this point in time we can do that. No, we cannot do that. I'm sorry. My apologies.
This is a very important matter that we are discussing at the Pan-African Parliament.
I don't dispute that, but it's your report, it's your committee. Your name is on the delegation list. You should have handed it over earlier on. Honorable member, please can
I was the one representing the West African caucus, and I want to dwell on the report, please.
Look, I think we have to follow proper procedure. A report was tabled. It was seconded. We had interventions. Now we cannot table another report. We cannot. We just cannot.
It's still part of the report. Maybe you don't understand what I was saying.
Honorable, can you allow me to allow the honorable mover to respond, please? Can you, honorable?
The head of delegation wants to do a few clarifications. Is that allowed? The head of delegation wants to do a clarification here.
Let us follow procedure. It is not for the honorable mover to allow another member to make, what is it called, an observation. I mean, if everybody wants to make an observation, then I have to be fair and give the floor to each and every member of the delegation who wants to make an observation. I mean, I
quite understood your point. It's just that the honorable member was not here when the debate was presented and was under debate. That would have been an opportune moment for her to put her points regarding that specific area of the report that I would say concerned mostly her, because she was the only, or she's the only female participant in that committee. That's the Women Caucus. Otherwise, if she will not have the opportunity to share her view on that report, well and done. We can proceed responding to the points that were raised by the honorable members. Well, to begin with, it's very unfortunate that this report should have come after another report. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, we could not have that report being laid and was overtaken by event. That was why Honorable Member for Serekunda did ask a person. Of course, if that report had been there, would actually address that specific person. But thank God, Honorable Member for Upper Salum did that clarification. Honorable Member for Banjul South asked why Sadauda Kairaba Jara, the former president of the Gambia, there was no motion to honor his demise and his position as far as Africanism is concerned, as it happened in the case of Robert Mugabe. Yes, if you observe the report very well, you will observe that the mover of that report didn't come from Zimbabwe. The mover came from DRC. And then the person who seconded the motion also came from Mali. And then the second person who also seconded came from Uganda. I will not think this will be the position of the Gambia to blow our own trumpet.
we would have loved, just like other National Assembly members from elsewhere did in the case of Zimbabwe, could have done so in the case of the Gambia. Would have loved so, honorable member, that is actually the position of the representative of the Gambia. We may understand Robert Mugabe had been in power until of recent 2018, if I stand to be right. Sir Dawda was almost 2 decades back. Perhaps that institutional memory, as far as the Pan-African Parliament members are concerned, might not have been there to actually capture the position of Sir Dawda as far as Africanism. And they could only realize the position of Mugabe because most of it is just of recent. That could have been the case. But I knew very well Sir Dawda is very important, not only in the Gambia, but Africa and the world at large. Honorable member for Jara is the nomenclature disability. Well, we could not change it. This is how things are said in the books of Pan-African Parliament and AU. Until such a time that is changed from disability to differently able, we could have written in that way. But this was how it was presented to us at the Pan-African Parliament. And this is how we should also report. We could not change the nomenclature.
Can I observe something?
Thank you.
With all due respect, it's time for winding up, please, and response.
I'm explaining exactly what he's saying because there is something that is missing there. There is something missing I want to put in to complete his answer to that question. Yes. It is very important because it has been raised here.
I'm not asking about the importance. I said, is it on that point? Yes, if it is on that point, very well.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. You can go ahead.
You know, the issue is...
We just try to make things work.
The issue is the term physically challenged and people with disability. Honorable members, if you remember in Rwanda, there was a debate on this when we had our meeting in Rwanda, Kigali. And we settled with the one that is used in the text, people with disability. That's what we adopted in Rwanda. It's not that we are oblivious of the fact that the expression physically challenged has also been in use. But intermittently, interchangeably, the two terms have been going side by side. But what a PAP has so far adopted is people with disability. Because in French, you cannot have anything like physically challenged. They talk about les handicapés en français. So that is one of the reasons why we have settled for people with disability.
Honorable, can you...
Thank you very much. The honorable member, like many other members, expressed concern on the issue of the xenophobia attack in South Africa. I think equally the Gambian delegation also raised the same point. Our views were very strong on the issue of that xenophobia attack in South Africa. Bakau member, honorable member from Bakau, asked that the new members who were oriented, we should have given the names or the list of the members who were oriented, but unfortunately that did not appear in the report. Well, we will observe it and note it. If necessary, in the next report, we'll be providing, if there are new members, every ordinary session, new members are sworn in. But this time around, the members were so many. I think it was about 45 members. If we could not give you all the names, then we can now give you the countries that they come from. The point well noted. Serekunda, honorable member for Serekunda, of course, that is the status of Pan-Africa. At the moment, it is just an advisory body, and we are working towards to get its full-fledged legislative mandate. At the moment, the benchmark for that is 28 countries to ratified, but only 12 countries ratified. Yes, somebody asks, what is the essence of the parliamentarian to be there when their countries are yet to ratify the protocol? We always urge each and member country representatives to put that pressure on their respective countries to ratify the protocol so that we can get our full-fledged status to be a legislative assembly. The honorable member observed that it will be important, the resolution, even though it has been stated that it was the report, we summarized it and indicated that there were 7 resolutions, but for the resolutions to be read for the understanding and consumption of the members, as my honorable member for Upper South indicated, the resolutions are put forward by the Pan-African parliaments further to be laid before the heads of state at the AU. It is at that level, when being adopted, then it can now be binding. And when that is done, if we have that resolution, it will be incumbent that resolution to be read before this August Assembly. I will say these are just recommendations made from the Pan-African Parliament to the AU. When adopted, that can now be binding. When it's the model laws are not legally binding on countries, they are guides to be used by any particular country that are signatories to that model law. We have various laws relating to those particular areas. Alongside your national laws, you can use those model laws. If the AU agree to, then it can be guiding you so that Africa in general can synchronize those issues that we feel we should have common position. Honorable member highlighted concerns on the issues on light weapons, and then the threat of crisis is ever growing. That's a point if we actually adhere to these treaties, and then they are meant to check the threat of the light weapons in our society. What is happening with the HIV and AIDS? Honorable member Ahmad Kamara, Nyanija, actually shed light on that. People tend to be silencing on HIV/AIDS, and he gave statistics on the HIV prevalence, the treatment, and the accessibility. Now, these are things that are happening. Maybe the common people are not talking more about HIV/AIDS, but as Honorable Member for Nyanija highly indicated, those are issues that are currently facing the issue of HIV/AIDS. The allegation that Honorable Member of Serekunda talked about, of course, he did not try to point out the person specifically, and unfortunately, when I was going through, I think I skipped this particular page in trying to give a summary. But this came under the presentation of the report of the Pan-African Parliament. Annually, Pan-African Parliament table a report to the plenary, and the report is debated and adopted. Part of the report was the issue of this crisis that confronted Pan-African Parliament, and that was subjected to be investigated. Allegations surrounding the president of the Pan-African Parliament. When I say president, I mean the clerk of the Pan-African Parliament. And a task force committee was set to investigate the allegations. The task force comprised 14 members, 2 from each regional caucuses, 1 male, 1 female. And the Gambia was part of the West African caucus. Honorable Jawara was part of the 2 from the West Africa caucus. The task force conducted their investigations and reported to the plenary. That was in May. Unfortunately, the report of the task force was supposed to be part of the report of the plenary report we were supposed to lay before this assembly. For one reason or the other, that could not happen. That's why Honorable, a member for Serekunda, was very quick and smart to pick out that point. If at all that report had been presented, that would have given us the clear picture exactly what had happened before Honorable Jawara would have this to say. Honorable Fatou Jawara challenged the President to go by the communications of the ad hoc committee that was set up to investigate the sexual harassment allegations leveled against him, that is the Honorable Speaker of the Pan-African Parliament. And on that, Honorable Jacqueline, a member from Uganda, pointed out that the PAP should charge a way forward in committing member countries to the Paris Agreement on climate change. In response to the point moved by Honorable Jawara, the Honorable President, however, in his response to Honorable Jawara query, he revealed that his office still looks forward to the result of the committee's investigation. The report was laid before the August Assembly, debated and adopted, but it was not exhaustive, as recommendations warranted further actions to be taken at the level of Pan-African Parliament and that of the AU. So that's how things stand as at now on the issue of those allegations. Honorable member for Serekunda called for the resolutions to be read. I think we'll try to do that at the end of the reactions to the report. And next to speak was Honorable Amadou Kamara, the member for Jemara. Oh, the member for Nyanija, sorry for that. Honorable did justice and then informed the August Assembly with the situation surrounding HIV/AIDS, on the issue of prevalence. He gave the statistics, and then the people living with HIV/AIDS, the treatment, and then the accessibility. These were the issues that are confronting HIV/AIDS, and he concluded that AIDS is still an issue and is still real. Nyamina West talked on xenophobia, the trade in Africa, and then the attempt of African leaders to extend their mandate, and then the various tribal conflicts that we are faced with. Example, in Mali he cited, and in child labor, he said it's not only in Côte d'Ivoire, but even in the Gambia, there are child labors in the Gambia and abuse of child rights. He noted the rate of unemployment, and Honorable Member for Upper Salum, my honorable colleague, shed light on the report as a matter of clarification on salient points before Honorable Member for Tumanna will come in, and who also expressed his concern on the signing of the Malabo Protocol that should give Pan-African Parliament its full status to be a legislative assembly. He asks on the issue of composition on the representation in the Pan-African Parliament. He said it's supposed to be 2:3, and whether we are actually complying with that representation composition. Actually, I think the Gambia has met what the requirement is, that at least there should be a female in the composition. And the Gambia actually has met that. Honorable went further to express concern on the child labor as other members expressed their concern, and then buttressed the point raised by Honorable Member for Upper Salem on the cause of concerns that he highlighted in the report that he felt that should be captured in the report of the Pan-African Parliament. But unfortunately, those cause of concerns were not highlighted, and which were concerns to Honorable Mbo as well as Honorable Member for Tumanna. The Honorable Member for Lower Badibu, why the previous report could not be laid before the August Assembly. That was unfortunate. You would have expected that to happen. If you listen to me very carefully, I began my presentation by commending the clerk or the secretary to the committee. And Honorable Mbo did also buttress on the point that I made, and even added that the report was completed even before we stepped out from South Africa. In fact, daily we used to get the compiled report, the draft report for our inputs, day by day. The last day, the full draft of the report was completed. And that was not the case as far as the May report is concerned. It could be the secretary attached to this committee did not do his homework, just like how the committee attacked to us in October did his. Honorable Member for Lower Badibu, that is the simple explanation I could give to your question. And that's why we call on the National Assembly Authority to give us people who will be there to do us justice, just like Alaji Doumbouya did for us, not only us, but for the entire National Assembly members. So that that important portion that was supposed to be laid before here, and people miss it, if that had been laid, we would have got the picture of the situation surrounding that saga. That was a big issue in the Pan-African Parliament, simply because we could not have our report on time. Honorable Member for Lower Badibu also expressed concern on the issue of Africanism and Pan-Africanism, and that was not adhered to by South Africa. To an extent, he wanted a motion to be passed for Pan-African Parliament not to have the seat at Midrand. That was too far. Of course, that was why I asked for thorough investigation. What we could have seen in social media, according to the representative from South Africa, was a totally different scenario. 12 people were allegedly killed, according to media report. And all of them were believed to be foreigners from elsewhere in Africa. But to South Africans, only 2 are from outside South Africa. 10 of them are all from South Africa. They were the victims as far as this incident, according to them, is concerned. But I was not comfortable with their own side of the story. That's their position. That's why I call for an independent investigation to ascertain the clear picture surrounding the attack on black to black. If we have got, if there is an investigation mounted and then we got the true picture, recommendation is that AU, Pan-African Parliament, is an organ of AU. And that report will be taken to AU. And if AU is concerned that African parliamentarians are not saved in South Africa, be it that they can recommend for the seat of the parliament to be moved from South Africa. But I think they are a very responsible institution, and they are also very concerned, trying to read the situation. If such concern comes at any time, I know AU will act accordingly. But with that, honorable member for Lower Badugu, your points are well noted, and your concern is actually well noted, and we share the same concern with you. Disaster recovery program and business continuity plan, these were policy issues that we feel should be guiding the parliament. And of course, that's how the report called for, and this is what the parliamentarians also emphasize, as he is also trying to do so in the National Assembly in the Gambia. Down there, the parliamentarian also emphasized that the authorities should adhere to those policy issues. On the issue of clerks, yes, clerks are hired and fired. The National Assembly or the Parliament Speaker is the head of the administration. The clerk is the head of the secretariat. That's how the protocol laid it. Unless otherwise that law is changed. That's how it's supposed to be. If, on the other hand, the clerk tends to be, or the speaker tends to be abusing his power, that's something the parliamentarians also are concerned. That was why the then acting clerk, his issue was subjected to a thorough investigation, and the investigation was thoroughly conducted. The report was presented to the August Assembly. It was not only for the President to take a decision, and the decision stands. If we consider or see at any point in time that he is trying to abuse his power, the National Assembly intervenes. And that was why we intervened on the issue of the then acting speaker or acting clerk, who is from the Gambia, by the way. It was not just how the president decided it happened and closed that way. No, there was an investigation on the matter, and the matter is still under AU to look into that circumstance. And then the acting clerk also, who, if he's not satisfied by the report, has every room to take up the matter legally. And this is how the situation lies as far as the issue of this hiring and firing of the clerks are concerned. We are very worried. 4 clerks within this short period is a concern, and parliamentarians down there are all concerned about that. It doesn't tell well on the image of our parliament. The CAPA is a committee that presents annual audit reports to the parliament, and of course, as any audit firm, they are expected to give out their audit queries. Now, those audit queries are issues that are supposed to be looked into and adhered to. Now, in the report, we are trying to put across the queries that the CAPA came across during their auditing exercise. And those points, the members also expressed their concerns and they look forward to the Parliament to adhere to those concerns raised by the CAPA committee. The Larikunda Sabiji, as a businessman, he dilated more on the continental free trade and then expressed his concern on what Gambia has to offer. If there has to be continental free trade, he said we should not only be relying on foreign products, but the Gambia also should be in position to offer. And he called on the Gambia to take its position and then offer. And then he also called on the empowerment to the private sector. That is a concern he raised, and the concern actually I fully concur with you. On that concern, to try to empower the private sector, he expressed concern on the threat of domestic borrowing. Recently, this was a subject of this debate when assembly members were trying to adopt the budget. This concern on the trend on the domestic borrowing. The more we go with that, the more we try to discourage the private sector. We are not empowering the private sector. That's what the honorable member is trying to express. Nyamina is talk on the SDGs and xenophobia. Xenophobia, just like all other members are concerned about the xenophobia that happened in South Africa, but I've just gave the explanation that was given by the South African regarding the xenophobia. Banjul note, I stepped out when you were giving your presentation. You were concerned about you are concerned about part of the report and then asked a question that was not very clear to me. But what we could recommend to your committee, I think there is a report on health. We'll try to make available that report to you. And there are recommendations. And then those recommendations can better guide your committee. On the health, we emphasize that member countries or their representatives should put that pressure on their governments to adhere to the 50% budget allocation on health, or 15% budget allocation on health. That's why, if you listen very carefully, we, the Pan-African delegation, we always try to emphasize on that. That is, if you come to our national parliaments or assemblies, we should put that pressure on our national governments to adhere to that 15% allocation on health. I must say that this assembly is very much in line with that. When you listen to the debate, there was that emphasis to call on the government to adhere to that. We should not only sign protocols or treaties just for the sake of signing, but we should be domesticating these protocols and treaties. These are issues that are still confronting. We are part of the countries that signed to and ratified, but in trying to implement, we are still struggling. But let the Parliament still push to see that we are committed to that 15% allocation. And I thank the Honorable Kerr for that. Honorable Member for Banjul or Central Badibu, he raised concern on the nutrition report and then emphasize on the type of report, the type of diet we have, as well as the type of food in our market. He, like others, expressed concern on child labor, and he also has this opinion that a lot of young people or children are abused, their rights are abused, and that's a cause of concern. He expressed concern on the transportation, marketing, effective communication, not only in Africa, but the Gambia in particular. And he called on the government to pass the much talk about Disability Act. Policing, he talked on that, as well as the issue of the xenophobia. Honorable Speaker, these were the honorable members who contributed to the report. Another important point that was raised by Honorable Member for Serakunda called for the reading of the resolutions. There are about 17 resolutions. If permitted, I will now go ahead to read the resolutions one by one. Oh, it's too much?
Did I get you right? You want to read the resolutions?
Yeah. In the presentation, we indicated that we are trying to summarize the report. And summary, we talk of the appendix, which included the resolution, but we did not go in detail to read the resolution. That was what was put by Honorable Member for Serakunda. So I don't know if I still can be permitted to go ahead.
Okay, let's get it clear, okay, so that we know what.
Honorable Member for Serakunda.
Because unfortunately, I wasn't on seat when.
Yeah, I recommended that they should move that we adopt the resolutions so that they can be committed to the different committees for action. So it's taking them together and just make a motion that we adopt the resolutions. That's the proposal.
May I just ask, I would believe that the resolutions are attached to the report. So when we adopt the report, do we not automatically adopt the resolutions?
Yes, it could be technically. That's how I also tend to perceive. But I also agree that when we adopted the report, automatically the resolutions also are part of it. But it will be important to read the headings of the reports and make the recommendation.
Observation, please. Can I observe, please?
There is a suggestion that he moves a motion for the resolutions to be adopted so that once the report is adopted, it will include the resolutions that have already been adopted.
There is a different element there that you are not emphasizing. What he is emphasizing, the element he is emphasizing is absent in what you are saying. Can I please observe? Yeah, in what you are saying. In what you are saying and in what he is saying. The important observation there is, yes, we know that once the report is adopted, all the resolutions are adopted. But the difference is, he is saying that each resolution there should be referred to an appropriate committee. That's the difference there.
Speaker.
Speaker,
I want to observe.
I think at the moment, the various committees cannot be acting.
Honorable, three people cannot take the seat, be on their feet at the same time. Let's allow others. Yes, you have a point to raise, honorable nominated member. No, if you don't have...
Sorry, yes, let me come in. What I want to say, the point he wants to bring is we're going to stay here for long time, for more time, Honorable Speaker. We all understand when the report is adopted. Once it's adopted, fine, let them attach their recommendation to various committees. Rather, he wants to read again, understand. Time is not on our side. No. We have so many, issues here to deal with.
Understand
we cannot be here sometime, or every time we are here, unnecessarily sometimes issues will rise here. We pin ourselves down here.
There was a distinction made, and that is for the reports, the resolutions to be referred to the different committees. That is the distinction. Not just adopt it, but refer it to the relevant committees. So I don't think that will take time. So probably it would just be a combined motion.
I just want to observe that point as well. Yes, to say that we should refer these motions to the relevant committees or resolutions to the relevant committees. I want to believe that is not as at now. That's supposed not to be taken as at now, because these are resolutions recommending model laws and which are supposed to be subjected to tabling at the AU by the heads of states. It is there when they are adopted. It can now be binding on us to refer them to the relevant committees. But right now, they cannot be used as working instruments for this parliament. They were adopted at Pan-African Parliament from onward submission to AU. When they are adopted there, then now it can be an instrument of this parliament to refer to the relevant committees. So what I want to do here is that, yes, I took note that the resolutions should be part of the motion. And we have in mind that we have these resolutions that are embedded in this report. But these resolutions are subjected to adoption by the heads of state at the AU. I hope the point is clear. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's time that, I think for us to save time, these resolutions that are captured in the report is all inclusive. So once the report is adopted, automatically or unanimously, this is adopted. So I think let him just wind up and then pass a motion for us for the entire plenary to adopt it. That's
I think there is still an issue that needs, to be clarified, and that is what he has just raised, that it has to be referred and validated by the AU.
Exactly.
So let me hear Honorable Member for Serekunda.
I think there is a disconnect in the whole argument. This is a resolution, it's not a recommendation. So if it is a recommendation to be sent to the AU, it will state that. This is a resolution from the Pan-African Parliament. And a report has been given by our delegation. Nothing stops us as a national parliament to adopt this resolution and start working on it. And if we prepare, because whatever is done by the AU, it must be domesticated. So we are saying, let's send this to our different committees, they will look at it, and if they can come by legislation to make recommendations, that's our own creation. Nothing stops us from doing that.
The decision actually is not mine. Let me allow Honorable Nominated Member. He's been raising his tag for some time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think it's just, this is just a matter of, we need to adopt it first. I think it has to be adopted. Then later we table a motion to refer it to the relevant committee. I think it has to be like that. That is my own suggestion. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
No, what I'm just saying, I think you don't. Yeah,
I have heard you. Thank you.
No, what I'm just trying to say, we have to adopt it. Then we file another motion to refer it to the relevant committee. That's very important. I think it has to be like that.
Honorable nominated member, the issue of adopting it is not in dispute.
No, but I said the parliament has that. No. The parliament is the only the oversight body which has the mandate to adopt this resolution, because the resolution comes from the Pan-African Parliament. I think so. So it is our responsibility to adopt it.
Honourable
Yes,
Speaker.
thank you. We've taken your
Honourable Speaker.
That's what I'm trying to tell.
Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Willie, please, let's take it one by one.
No, what
We want to make sure that what we are doing is right. So we have to listen and then, adopt what we think is the proper procedure. It's not just because A says or Y says, but we need to come to a conclusion that what we are doing is right. So let's allow divergent views. Honourable Member for...
I'm not going to comment, I'm just going to make a motion. I move that we adopt the report. I was moving that we adopt the report. And then the table office will do the rest of the job. That is to refer the resolution to relevant committees for consideration.
Yes, I rise to second the motion. Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the report, and the resolutions thereby attached will be referred to the relevant committees for their consideration. Of course, I don't think that stops the validation afterwards, no. Yes, adopt it. And then subsequent sittings, you will provide the missing information, and it was subsequently tabled and adopted. So the two reports then formed the complete report of that delegation. It has just come to my mind. Am I right? Yes, so in that case, don't you think that if there is something missing here fundamentally, maybe it can be done later and then tabled during the next session or whatever and attached to this report, and it will form a complete, comprehensive report. It has just come to my mind. The delegation can shed light on that before I put the question.
Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker.
Yes, yes, Honourable. What do you want to...
I don't think there is anything missing in the report. Maybe that's the point I want to make clarification. All what Honourable Member for Serekunda was trying to say, for the portion on the resolutions to be further requested to be referred to the relevant committees. Maybe where we may have differences is...
No, I think we have passed that stage. I'm not disputing that.
You asked the question for us to clarify.
The reason why I suggested that was I thought that there was something that Honorable Jawara, wanted to include.
I think we've passed that one. This one is about the issuing of further referring. That was the point we were trying to...
I have been made to understand that Honorable Member for Upper Salem had clarified that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, thank you.
So on that note, Honorable Speaker...
You see, these things happen when you change.
Yeah. I want to thank the National Assembly members, the entire Assembly, for taking part in the debate and then adopting this report. Once more, our able secretary. We want all the secretaries or the clerks to emulate him for effective work. And we look forward to the pending report for whatever reason could not be laid, to be laid. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We were all equally concerned when you were going to South Africa. In fact, I personally said, I don't feel comfortable. I don't think they should go. Now, I'm just saying that we were all very concerned at the time you were going to South Africa because of the problems therein. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then I put the question, be it resolved that this Honorable Assembly do adopt the report of the National Assembly delegation to the third ordinary session of the 5th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held in Midrand, Republic of South Africa for the period 2nd to the 19th of October 2019. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. So the ayes have it. Thank you very much, honorable members. And clerk, I think we can now proceed. Thank you.
Bills by the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice.
Honorable members, in accordance with clause 65 of the standing orders, this will be the first reading of the following bills. One, the bills I suppose have already been circulated. The Constitution Amendment Bill 2019. 2, the Gambia Anti-Corruption Bill 2019. 3, the Public Order Amendment Bill 2019. 4, the Information and Communication Amendment Bill 2019. 5, the National Human Rights Commission Amendment Bill 2019. 6, the Women's Amendment of Discriminatory Laws Bill 2019. 7, Sexual Offences Amendment Bill 2019. As per the standing orders, I will now invite the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who is in charge of the bills, to hand over a copy of each of the bills. We'll call them in sequence to the Clerk of the National Assembly, who will then read aloud the short title, whereupon the bill will then be deemed to have been read a first time. Thank you. This is a new procedure, so we have to do it step by step. Clerk, can you read the AG needs to, I think he needs to hand over first. That's the Constitution Amendment Bill 2019.
Constitution Amendment Bill 2019.
Thank you. You have your bills, I suppose. Thank you. Is this small?
Gambia Anti-Corruption Bill 2019. National Human Rights Commission Amendment Bill 2019. Sexual Offences Amendment Bill 2019. Information and Communication Amendment Bill 2019. Women's Amendment of Discriminatory Law Bill 2019.
Honorable members, the respective bills have been read a first time. The next stage of the bill is for tomorrow, will be tomorrow, the 3rd of December 2019, for the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice to move a motion for the respective bills to be read a second time in accordance with clause 62(2) of 66.
Observation.
66 subclause 2, which reads, at the conclusion of the proceedings on the first reading or on any subsequent stage of the bill. I want to read it from the standing orders itself. At the conclusion of the proceedings on the first reading or on any subsequent stage of a bill, the next stage may be taken either forthwith or upon a day to be named, provided that the second reading shall be taken no sooner than 1 working day after the first reading. Now, sorry. Honorable members, my attention has just been drawn to the fact that there's an official communication with regards to the withdrawal of the Public Order Amendment Bill 2019 by the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice. As a result, it's out of the list. Yes, thank you. Yes, my attention has just been drawn. That's what you wanted to, yeah. Thank you very much. Now, may I now then put the question, be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned till Tuesday, the 3rd of December, 2019 at 10 a.m. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. So the ayes have it. The Assembly now stands adjourned till Tuesday, the 3rd of December, 2019 at 10 a.m. prompt. You can delete the public order bill from your records and have it disregarded. Thank you.
Yara nyilla domoro kadiyata
boy janno sikes restaurant
sa na ko be ni na dimbal nimba domoro kala janno
domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kende ma bije luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni adi manda wala de te ka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa e ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery iko fanan be kalele badde lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo fendil lo dunia kono domoro betama nyillom international o toda number 1
amanke ba domola jandama
e sa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa na ko sa futandin
oto sa na ko be mu CKS restaurant
ndafa na janna mu yat ni manje dorom bijam
aban
CKS restaurant known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.